Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
It's every parent's worst nightmare. That phone rings and you're informed your child is dead. Worse yet, your child has been murdered in a school shooting. How does one ever get beyond such a horror? Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. With this hour to help us find our way when the unthinkable happens is Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett founded the nonprofit Jesse Lewis Choose Love movement in honor of her son Jesse, who was murdered during the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy in December of 2012. Scarlett became an advocate for social and emotional learning and character development to help children manage their emotions, feel connected, and have healthy, meaningful relationships. She created the Choose Love for Schools program, a no-cost, comprehensive, lifespan, next-generation character and social emotional development program that teaches children how to thoughtfully respond with love in any situation. Her website, chooselovemovement.org. Scarlett, thank you so much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thanks for having me, Gwilda.
This is a very difficult topic, and I thank you so much for all you're doing in the world to put alternatives out there for people. I mean, it's how did you ever get over that? I mean, how did you get over that?
That's a great question. It's not necessarily getting over it. It is getting through it and realizing that pain has a purpose in our lives, regardless of what it's from. It's there to teach us lessons, to help us grow, sometimes drop kicking us out of our comfort zone into our growth zone. And it actually helps strengthen us. So I think the realization was there for me. I had a 12-year-old son at the time as well, Jesse's older brother. I knew that I was modeling for him how to move through that. It helped me rise to the occasion for sure. And this whole concept is called post-traumatic growth. It's one of the things that we teach now in the Choose Love movement. It's not so much about what happens to us in life, but it's how we choose to thoughtfully respond that really makes all the difference.
And we don't have any training in this anywhere. I mean, until you start doing it, there's just no provision out there to deal with our emotions in schools. Now they're coming up with some really wonderful things where instead of detention, they have a meditation, a quiet room. But that's certainly not the majority of the schools.
And by the way, that's not enough. Those brain break rooms, that's not enough. And I realized that what happened at Sandy Hook Elementary School, and what continues to happen. We just had another shooting the other day in Georgia. These things don't have to happen. We have to start asking ourselves, Gwilda, why are our children killing themselves and each other at unprecedented rates? And at some point, we have to look to ourselves and to ask if we are meeting their needs. And I think the answer is no, clearly. And I did that in my journey. First of all, I took my part of the responsibility for what happened. I took a step back and I watched blame just being flung as arrows all over the place. It was guns, it was mental illness, it was Adam and his mom, the shooter and his mom who gave him access to guns. And certainly all those things are a part of it. And Adam and his mom certainly responsible. But if it was all their fault, it would never have happened before and it wouldn't be continuing to happen. And it is. So I think that until we all take our part of the responsibility for our children and what's going on in the world, we're never going to get ahead of this. And that's the journey that I went on. I refuse to be another victim. of Adam Lanza. I did not want my surviving son to be a victim. And I knew that that was in my choices from the time that it happened going forward. And literally, they brought another mom that had lost a child, a son, to violence 20 years prior to speak to me within the first few days. And first of all, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to live. And that's where I started the process, literally. Like, I'm looking at her, and anybody who's lost a child understands. I see her 20 years out, and I think, okay, I'm going to live. That's number one. And she starts telling me about her life. And about 5 minutes into her description, I just held my hand up. I said, thank you so much for coming in and talking to me and letting me know I'm going to live. That was so generous, and I really appreciate it. But in my mind, I was thinking, that's your story, and that is not going to be my story. I had this word joy in my mind because that's where I had come from. That's what we had before Jesse's murder. I wanted to get back to that.
I
But
can hear it.
it was
Yeah.
in the realization that, okay, no one's going to lay out a roadmap for me. Nobody's going to tell me what turns to take. There's not a book I can read. I'm going to have to figure it out myself. And by the way, no one has figured out how to get ahead of school shootings, of suicides, of substance abuse. No one.
I want to ask you,
Yeah.
um, when I was going to school, this was unheard of. It just didn't happen. I mean, the only shootings were accidental ones when the kid didn't know the gun was that kind of stuff.
Right.
What do you think? Now, I know you've looked at this from every which angle. What do you think is going on in this day and age that has caused this epidemic of school shootings?
Mm-hmm. I think it's pain and disconnection. And, I think that it's also fear. I think that with the advent of social media, but of course, this has been going on long before that, but now kids are being bullied 24/7. Um, I think that we've become much more disconnected. You probably also, Gwilda, sat around the table with your family and had dinner every night, and
Without a cell phone. I don't
with
know how I survived it.
and you may have had a TV, but if you were like my family, we got to watch 1 hour of TV during a week time. And so now you have people with different schedules. You've got two parents that are working. I mean, that was definitely my story. I was divorced and my kids were in daycare, and I had a very long day, very long commute. I dropped them off at 7:30 in the morning and didn't get back until 6:30 at night. And, it's hard as a single mom, working full time and, having a full-time job, and just, I mean, like, life is hard. And I think the disconnection, we don't rely on our family anymore. And there's so much pain. And if I had to boil it down to one word, and by the way, I've dedicated my life to this issue in particular. And I would say that it is pain in our kids, off the charts pain, without the skills and tools to be able to manage that pain, without even the awareness that pain happens to everyone in some form or fashion. You don't get out of life without it. And it's there for a reason. It's there to help us grow, literally. And when we can raise a generation of kids that have that awareness, it reduces fear, and fear is what exacerbates pain and inhibits healing. And I think it's so
So
important to do that.
I can see the pain piece. I mean, obviously, most of our children are in pain at this
Yeah.
point. However, isn't there a certain amount of rage? Because pain is suicide, right? That would be what you would think would be the more logical, development. But this is killing everybody and suiciding. That's different. Isn't there rage involved in that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that's what happens to prolonged pain. And yeah, it either goes inside and you kill yourself, or it goes outside and you do death by cop, or whatever you call it. You try to take it out on as many people as possible. And then kill yourself. And I really kind of call it the ultimate bullying. That's what I considered Adam Lanza, right? Coming back, looking for soft targets, which he did. Adam Lanza was the Sandy Hook school shooter who came back to the same elementary school that he taught in, excuse me, and went down, chose the first grade hallway where he had gone to school. He knew exactly what he was looking for, and he killed as many people as possible. I mean, I think we have to take responsibility, Gwilda, and say we are raising these kids, because Adam Lanza was not born a mass murderer. Clearly,
How,
something happened in
how
between when he was born and when that happened, and we have to really take a look at that.
how old was he when he did this?
He was 21.
So he came back to the grade school, like there was grudges and this and that he never worked through. Would that be what you'd say happened?
Well, it's really interesting because if you look at the Department of Homeland Security's pathway to violence, and you can Google this and take a look at the chart, it starts with a grievance, and then it stair steps up through ideation, preparation, a couple of other steps into an attack. And because we are so reactive as a society, and how we normally address problems is focusing on the problem itself, think war on drugs, think mental illness, it would make sense that in trying to keep our kids safe, we would focus on the attack end. But getting back to the grievance, absolutely, you can look at Adam's life, and it started when he started going to Sandy Hook Elementary
Wow.
School. By the
Well,
way,
we're going to have to look a little closer at this on the other side of a station break. Scarlett and I will return very shortly. Please don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org, and we're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. Hate or love? Which do you choose? With us this hour discussing the school shooting that took her son is Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett is the author of From Sandy Hook to the World: How the Choose Love Movement Transforms Lives. Sandy, is there a choice? I mean, these are our feelings and whatnot, but do we have a chance to choose how we respond when something is so upsetting to us?
when we have the awareness that we have a choice, when we have some skills and tools, when we're able to pause in between what's happening and our response and access our prefrontal cortex, where logic and reasoning reside, where the brake on our instinctual reactions is, yes, if we have some learned skills and tools, everything is a choice. In fact, our personal power as human beings is in our ability to choose from moment to moment how we thoughtfully respond. And of course, choosing love as a thoughtful response is always the highest and best response.
So, when a person is totally overwhelmed and they've firmly ensconced in the victim stance, this is all happening to me rather than a result of my choices, does that put them more likely to be one of these people that goes off and kills people?
Absolutely. And what you're referring to is called the locus of control. And locus is location of your personal power. And as you said before, it can be outside of you, where you think things happen to you, where you feel a sense of helplessness to create the change needed for a better future. Of course, that's the definition of hope. So you feel helpless, that can lead to victimization. Victimization can lead to hopelessness, and hopelessness is the single most consistent factor in suicides and violence. So this locus of control can be moved, and that's when you feel like you blame other people for where you are, you finger point, you fault find, but that location of your personal power can be moved back into you by thoughtfully responding with love, by choosing love. And we use a formula that helps you bring that locus of control back inside of you, where you have the power to make the changes necessary for a better future. That's the definition of hope. And that is where love lies. The other is on the furthest spectrum from love, and that is fear.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Why are so many more of our children in this condition, in this place of fear and hopelessness and victimhood?
I think there's several reasons. I think the degradation of the family unit. I think there are more divorces. There's more acrimony. There's less money and more stress. I think that that's not helpful. I also think that our school system focuses on academics and competition there. And I feel like very strongly, and there's research that backs me up too, that before education, and it is our responsibility to teach kids social and emotional competence and character and growth mindset and mindfulness, all of these essential life skills that put children on a direct path to flourishing. And when they learn these, they get better grades and test scores, higher attendance, higher graduation rates, less stress and anxiety, less mental illness, less substance abuse,
But
less bullying.
didn't that used to be the job of the family, the churches, and the academics was supposed to come from the school system. It
Abs-
looks to me like we're putting onto the school system things that it may or may not be able to manage
well,
with everything else going on there.
that's a really good point. You're right. These essential life skills should be taught at home. And you absolutely got them at church through your religion and within your community. But those things, I mean, church attendance is way down. As I said before, I don't know how many times families eat dinner together, but sometimes it's with single parents. And nothing against single parents because it's not always your fault. But it's something that, you know, this saying keeps coming into my mind, am I my brother's keeper? I know that comes from the Bible, but I think that unless we start taking responsibility for our kids, and by the way, I didn't think like that before December 14th. I was thinking, okay, I've got two boys, they are my responsibility, and I'll just focus on them. What I didn't realize is that we need to have an outward focus, and we really all need to take responsibility for what's going on with our kids, because if we don't, by the way, it may come back to bite us in some way.
Yeah, that it does. Speaking of sayings, there's a saying, it takes a tribe to raise a child.
Yes.
And we used to have a lot of extended family living close. Now people move distances from them. We
Right.
used to have or gatherings of different religions where there was support and other adults giving their viewpoint, other children giving examples.
Mhm.
All of that's kind of gone by the wayside, hasn't it?
Not only that, but I think that we're very reactive and we focus on the problem. So let's say school shootings, there's so much of a focus on guns and laws, that's a reactive stance. And by the way, when you focus on something like, let's look at war on drugs in the 70s, we have more drugs and overdoses than ever before. Let's look at mental illness. When we wait for mental illness to happen, and then there are kids, in lines in emergency rooms, having attempted suicide and needing mental health help, and there simply aren't enough mental health professionals, and there won't ever be, by the way. We need so many. So that actually forces us to take a look proactive and preventatively, which is what I've been advocating for the past 11 years, literally to take a quarter of our resources, that's time, energy, and money, and start providing skills and tools through the school systems to our kids so that they can manage and not just manage their pain, but actually grow through it and use it, and be able to have healthy relationships, be able to make responsible decisions, be able to manage their emotions. By the way, these are skills and tools that are not inherent within us. We have to be taught them, and not only that, we have to practice and have them reinforced. So best case scenario, even if they are taught in the home, which they are in certain cases, they have to be reinforced and practiced at school. But I want to make a confession. I was 44 years old when my 6-year-old son was murdered at Sandy Hook Elementary School. I started researching a solution and realized very quickly I didn't have these skills and tools. My parents didn't teach me. I did not learn them in school, and I did not learn them in a lifetime of working. So I got to be an adult with two kids that you can't give what you don't have. So it's necessary to teach them in school.
And how common is that? I mean, you look around you, very few people know how to creatively manage their pain. it's like you say, it's a skill set, and it seems to be in short supply. My other question
Yeah.
is, how much does it have to do with media, not media, but television programs, games, shows violence is a solution all the time?
Well, the video game industry is the biggest lobbyist. They have the most money. And we have had research out since the 40s and 50s saying that that type of experience is negative for kids. We know so much more about the brain now, Gwilda, and the things that we expose our kids to, including, by the way, social media now, and how that has a direct link to suicides and mental illness. And I think that we really need to start taking responsibility again for our actions. And if you see an issue with something or someone, do something about it, because we're responsible for our inactions too. It always amazes me when a tragedy happens and you have all these people come out of the woodwork saying, oh yeah, the Parkland shooter, Nicholas Cruz in Florida, the incident that happened, his nickname was school shooter. So I mean, they knew, people actually left messages with the FBI saying that was going to happen. People know this isn't usually an astonishing thing to have happen. People usually have some forewarning, and kids are saying they're going to do things. They're foreshadowing this in what they write and what they post. And I think we need to start active listening. I think that's a really important part of this, Gwilda. I think we need to start paying better attention to our kids, listening to what they say, and believing them.
That's the key. I think parents, adults tend to go, yeah, they're just talking. They'll get over it
Or
because
they're
it's so
quiet.
painful to look at.
Or they're quiet in their room, so everything is okay.
Mhm.
Everything is not okay. Some kids are building bombs in there, and it's up to you to be responsible, to figure out and be part of their life, and they want you to be part of their life. And unfortunately, meanwhile, a lot of adults are addicted to their cell phones. I call it the new crack pipe. And let me tell you something. Every moment that you spend on your cell phone is a moment that you spend away from your child. And you have, if you have a live child, you have the ability to go and ask them how their day was and to be a part of that. I don't have that ability anymore with my young son. And really, I always say this: the best way to live your life with the fewest regrets is to be present with the ones that you love. And that's really what you need to focus on as parents, is being present with those kids. They need you. And in all cases, when you look at school shooters, obviously their parents weren't on the ball. They may have loved them, but there were things that were going on that they weren't aware of. And I
Well,
think that,
or denial is not just a river in
or
Egypt.
in
Yeah,
denial. I
it's
tell
it's
parents,
time. It's
you,
time for us to
yeah.
take another station break. Scarlett and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So please stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Can we teach our children to creatively handle adversity? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour is Scarlett Lewis. Her website, chooselovemovement.org. Scarlett, you were talking about the training that program that you've developed, and I know a lot of people are trying to figure out something that can be provided in the schools,
Mhm.
um, that will make up for the fact that kids aren't getting this at home. Parents don't have it to start out with, but there's so much more stress in our world. It seems like everybody's being pushed to the edge of their functionality.
Mhm.
What does it look like? What would you say we need to do in the schools, for
Mhm.
instance?
Mhm. And I think that this is the number one most overlooked aspect of school safety, by the way, is providing essential life skills to our kids. And this looks like having a program like the Choose Love movement offers, at no cost, by the way, because I know that it would have saved not only Jesse's life, but also Adam Lanza's life, the shooter. So embracing a program like that and literally having the educators learn because they don't have all these skills and tools either, and model this for the kids, have lessons in the classroom, an opportunity to learn these essential life skills, and then practice and reinforce them throughout the day. The programs should have a additional programming for parents at home, parents that want to get involved, that want to actively know what their child is learning and want to practice and be a part of that. Really, really important to have that parental involvement in schools and with your child. And then also a community portion, because as you said earlier, and you were really right, we can't expect the teachers to take all this on themselves. Really teachers that teach math and English and handwriting. I mean, those are things that we're asking them to do in addition to making our kids life ready and teaching them these essential life skills. So that the educators need help. But honestly, I don't know any other way around that. And I have been looking and actively searching and speaking with experts, and I speak at school safety conferences and mental health conferences and education conferences all over the world. And I don't see any other way around this right now. This is the number one way, I believe, to cultivate healthy and connected kids that are safe. And by the way, their safety is our responsibility. So, making sure that a school has programming like this to do everything that you can, because as you said, you started off this whole program like everyone has this thought in their head. Parents tell me all the time they drop their kids off and they kiss them goodbye, not knowing if it's going to be the last time. Educators are in their classroom. They're thinking about this. They're anxious. Of course, the kids are going to pick up on that. And the kids are losing confidence in us that we are able to keep them safe. And by the way, we just have to take responsibility and stop blaming each other. Stop blaming, the folks that won't vote for the whatever, you know what I mean? Like, we have to just take responsibility and take action ourselves, and not on this thing, by the way, texting. We need to get off our seats and we need to get involved.
So right now, everything is happening so quickly. The media is just going wild as far as advancements with artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And it seems like humanity is slipping between the cracks.
Mhm.
That people have more time they spend, like you say, with their cell phone or with their video games or watching TV, none of which is reality. It seems like part of the problem here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is nobody's grounded in reality anymore.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. There is such division and anger. I think that we all need to take a breath and realize that as human beings, we are 99.9% genetically the same. It doesn't matter what we look like, what language we speak, what part of the country, what religion. Literally, we're much, much more similar than we are different. And by the way, we are responsible for the world that we leave our kids. So how do we want to leave it? And I think that we've forgotten also, Gwilda, that we are role modeling for our children. So you see how people talk to each other as cowards behind the cell phone. And of course, probably you would never say those things to a person's face. We lie on this. We name call. We conjecture, and in reality, there is one truth, and society needs to believe in that truth. And I think that we need to start taking back our world and realize that we are responsible for that. We're not victims unless we don't have these skills and tools and awarenesses of choice. We can choose right now to get out of get off of this and get into life. Go to your kids' school, make sure that they're safe, make sure that they have an essential life skills program that is embraced. Your school should be able to tell you what the name of it is, how often it's taught, what it's teaching. They should be able to give you the home program that goes along with it. And I think that we just need to really get involved. We need to get off our cell phone, back into life. back into responsibility and create the life that we want. That's what I've been trying to do for the last 11 years. And I will admit, it took my son's murder in order for me to wake up to really start working at this and realizing my responsibility for our children's our kids in the world and their future. And so I really hope that nobody else has to suffer like I've had. I hope that they benefit from what I've learned from this and take it and use it to benefit their children and our future.
It's quite a conundrum, isn't it? Because the very things that are making us dehumanized,
Mhm.
um, are actually they're advancing it at unbelievable pacing. I mean, the artificial intelligence, the social media, the way you can use our AI to write an article or whatever, not even using your own voice, really.
Mhm.
The makeup, the camera, the everybody's putting up a false front.
Mhm.
Do we know who we are really? And how can we find out so we can be anchored in something true?
And you know what? That's a great point, Gwilda, because when I speak to these school shooters, I can boil down all of my conversations into one word. I'm asking them because they're kids, right? I'm asking them, how did we fail you? Because you weren't born like this. So
Mhm,
what could we have done to keep you from doing this? And they tell me, all of them, that they didn't feel seen for
mhm,
who they truly are. We all have this light of humanity in us, and then we put up these, false fronts. We even airbrush or whatever, but that's not who we truly are. And even if we do that, even if we put on a hoodie and we cover our face, we are all human beings and we're desperate to be seen for who we truly are. And I think that all the technology is wonderful, but I think that we need to be in control of it. It can't control us. And right now, we're allowing it to control us through addiction, through dopamine. And I think that just like a drug addict or an alcoholic, there's cell phone addiction. And I remember when I started saying this, I don't know, when cell phones came out and I watched my mom on it, and I would tell her this and she'd laugh at me, and I'd say, you're addicted to the dings, and she'd say, no, I'm not. That's ridiculous. Well, now, of course, we have science that shows that we're all addicted in some way if you have a cell phone. And I
kinda like
think, yeah,
Pavlov's dog, the cell phone dings, you salivate, right?
that's right. And I
Yeah,
think that we need to take control over it because it's a choice, Gwilda. Right now, it's a choice.
but it's also a way of life for our young people. It's gotten to the point that if they don't have a cell phone, oh my, they're nobody.
It,
And you know what I mean? From very young, they're stuck with this thing that seems benign enough, but we're looking at a heck of a problem here with it, aren't we?
Well, it's rewiring their brains, and,
Mhm.
I think it says a lot that the makers of the cell phone do not allow their children to have it until they're 16, and so, it's not good for young people. We know that. We know what happens to the brain, so get educated, and that takes effort, right? It takes effort to read a book about it. Anxious Generation is a great book if you want to start somewhere, by Jonathan Haidt. It tells exactly what the cell phone does to our brains, how we are addicted, and then he gives some solutions, some possible solutions. I know that schools are starting to put their own solutions, and they're at least sharing with kids what the cell phone is doing to their brains, so that they're enlightened and that they can make their own choices. But then again, these are kids with not fully developed prefrontal cortexes of executive functioning and choice making, so they rely on us to make the right decisions for them and to protect them. And I think we forget that. And that's what we need to do, even with the cell phone and the technology. We are the purveyors of what is in our children's best interest, and we need to do this. I remember thinking, like, who is out there for our children? You've got the unions for the teachers, you've got the Department of Ed for the education systems and processes, but who is the person that's actually looking out for the best interests of our children? It's only parents, and parents, you have to get involved. I used to think that you didn't, and that, I don't know a whole lot about education, so I'll let the educators do that. That's their part of the job. They're responsible for my child's safety, health, and well-being while they're at school. Guess what? Not true. They're not. I am, you are as parents. And we need to realize that, and we need to get more involved.
Being more involved certainly seems to be a key because we have inadvertently become less and less involved and rely more and more on the cell phones, the television, the games to keep our children entertained when we come home exhausted. It is time for us to take another quick break. Please stay with us as Scarlett and I continue to explore the complex issues of our troubled youth. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. We're coming to you on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. How can children be expected to stand in truth when everyone and everything around them is lying to them? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Scarlett Lewis. Her website, chooselovemovement.org. So Scarlett, that's the place I'd like to head right now is everything out there, for the most part, if you look at it close enough, is a lie. The way people present themselves on social media is a lie. The things that are taught in school that don't anchor in a child's needs
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like lying to them. They're saying this is more important than how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your grades are more important than your social skills or your emotional well-being. Just put that aside and get good grades, and then you'll be on the football team, and everybody will love you. These are all lies.
Yes.
What do we do with that?
Wow, you just put it right out there. And I love that. Thank you. Thanks for asking that question. It's a great one. I think the number one thing that we do, the first thing that we do is teach kids to love themselves. And not the egoistic type of love, but the type of love that is accepting, that feels good. It's actually called self-esteem. And we know through recent surveys that 85% of Americans lack self-esteem.
How can you teach somebody to love themselves though, when most people don't even know who they are?
That's true. So you lead them through gentle exercises, and you tell them that they're valuable, that they're worthy, that they are enough. You use affirmations, you use mirror exercises where you can look at yourself in the mirror, and your listeners can try this too, and look yourself in the eye and say, I love and accept you, and really mean it. Because until we can love and accept ourselves, we can't love and accept other people. So we need to learn about ourselves. We need to be introspective. We need to lead and guide kids and let them understand that they're precious beings that are on earth. And it's, one in, 4 trillion chances that they are here, and they have a reason and a purpose for being here. And it's so important. And then it starts with self-esteem, and then that's how you feel about yourself. And then you move it up to self-confidence. Give them confidence in their abilities, because it's only then that they'll be able to talk back to what they're seeing and seek the truth. It takes a lot of self-confidence and self-esteem to be able to actually say, no, that's not true. No, I know that picture is not true. That's not an actual woman. That is somebody that's airbrushed, and I'll never be able to look like that. And I love and accept myself anyway.
And isn't that though the Pavlov conditioning? Every time the cell phone makes a bing and a person jumps on it for social media, aren't they getting their self-esteem from how many thumbs up they get versus something real?
Versus something real. And so you teach them what real feels like, because the problem is we all want to feel good, Gwilda, and we're going to do that in only one of two ways. Or feel better or find relief from pain. And one way is through healthy relationships. It's through managing our emotions. It's through the understanding that we can grow through pain. The other way is through being on our cell phone. It's through anger, because anger gives us a false sense of control. It's through maybe manipulation and negative relationships. So it's really important to instill these essential life skills into our kids. It's the basis of everything. It's the foundation for flourishing and thriving. And without them, we're just kind of throwing them to the wind. And even more so now, because we know the cell phone, there are dopamine labs, and it is created to hook us and get us addicted and make us feel bad about ourselves, so that we think that we need to buy something and change who we are in order to match what we're seeing. And of course, that's not it at all. And you're right, there are beautiful things about the cell phone, but we need to be aware, and we need to fortify our kids from the inside out. And that is what these essential life skills and Choose Love does for kids.
Okay, so have you had any formal studies done on the results of your programs?
We have, and it's all on our website. You can look at the research tab. We worked with the University of Arkansas in 2 alternative schools, and we've had other schools that are doing their own independent research on Choose Love. We're now in over 15,000 schools and have
Congratulations.
benefited millions of kids. And this is, by the way, mostly by referral of the program from one educator to another, because we don't advertise. So that says something about the power of the program. We're the only school-based program that focuses on love and post-traumatic growth. And these are 2 things that are left out of everywhere else, and we desperately need.
Absolutely. So right now, it's that magic moment when I get to ask you, Scarlett, what's your mission?
My mission in life is to promote the safety, health, and well-being of children through the Choose Love movement, and using a powerful formula that returns the locus of control back inside you and helps you be able to thoughtfully respond in any situation, circumstance, or interaction by choosing love.
Very beautiful mission. When you're working with children, can you personally start to pick out kids that are really, really at high risk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
What do
can.
we watch for? What do we watch for?
We watch, first of all, for kids that do not interact with other kids. Everyone needs to have one trusted adult. You need to make sure that you are interacting and interfacing with every child every day, asking them how they feel, asking if they ate,
I'm
looking.
sorry, are you talking about the parental role here?
I'm talking about the educator role, but
Okay. Hmm.
yeah,
I
but
just wanted to clarify.
yeah, because this is a school-based program, but we're also in the homes as well. But the kids that are very quiet, the kids that don't have friends, are not interacting, the kids that are acting out, because how we think impacts how we feel, that determines our behavior. So when you're seeing behavior that is offensive, that's only because that's what they're feeling. And so making sure that kids get mental health help when they need it, and just being very present in a child's life. I think
I
often.
think that starts with we need to be more present in our own lives, don't we? Because most adults, not just parents, but most adults are on the fast track. They're run, 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 run. Do they have time for introspection? As a rule, not. How can we switch that around? Because doesn't it always start with the adult here?
It always starts with the adult, and it always starts with our thoughts, every time. So it's imperative that and this is what I said at Jesse's funeral, actually, and this is how I say the whole Choose Love movement started. When I got up, because everybody was asking me, what can we do? And so I said, I pictured Adam Lanza as a little boy having an angry thought without the skills, tools, or nurturing environment to manage that thought. That thought, along with more pain, bullying, neglect, most likely abuse, led to the violence. But it all started with a thought. So I asked everybody in the congregation to start thinking about what they think about, because we know that every thought that we have impacts every cell in our body and leads us towards languishing or flourishing. And it all starts right here. So start thinking about what you think about, and choose a loving thought over an angry thought every day. Just one. I said loving, kind, caring thoughts feel good. That's reflected in how we show up in our relationships. Angry, hateful, resentful thoughts feel bad. And that is also reflected in our behavior.
And oftentimes, are we not even the author of our own thoughts? I mean, don't we pick up what we're thinking from what we're seeing in the media?
Absolutely. So we need to also guard our minds. We need to make sure that our brains are attracted to the negativity in the media. Fear sells, and our brains are buying. And we just have to understand that. Even in the shows that we watch, we need to understand that it is impacting our brain. It's rewiring our brain. But the beauty is through neuroplasticity, we can rewire our brains towards love and prune from the fear channels every time we change our thought to love. So make that the first thing that you do every day. Make sure that every morning before you even open your eyes that you're thinking a grateful thought. It takes courage to be grateful when things aren't going your way, but make sure that that's gratitude. There's research showing that that completely changes your day. Share that with your kids. Forgive other people who are have anger towards you, have done something wrong to you, because you can carry that resentment around. And try to have an outward focus of service towards others. That's why we're here, to help other people. So and by the way, the whole era of loneliness, this super pandemic of loneliness that we're experiencing all over the world, you can overcome that by having the courage to have an outward focus. Go out and help somebody. Go out and join a club, do something. It's the last thing that you feel like doing because you're in pain and feeling lonely, but the more inwardly focused you are, the worse off you are.
Well, on that note, we're going to have to close the entire program out. Unfortunately, we are out of time, Scarlett. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Gwilda.
Our guest this hour has been Scarlett Lewis. Scarlett is the author of From Sandy Hook to the World: How the Choose Love Movement Transforms Lives. To find out more about Scarlett, where you can find her book and all the wonderful work she's doing, visit the website chooselovemovement.org. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy our past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But most importantly, please be sure to join us right here next time. This mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to a rapidly evolving world.